Welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charny, James the Fat Man Stevens, Ryan Preston, and special guest host, the Old Guy. And this show's not brought to you by Burma Shave. Golfers, if fewer strokes are what you crave, you're out of the rough with Burma Shave.
That'd be nice if we got a check from Burma Shave.
What the hell?
Yeah. No,
Why are we talking about them?
Because we can.
John wanted to mix it
I
up.
wasn't in the studio. I didn't get this memo.
No, it was a secret memo between the two of us, and
This is what's going to happen now is there's going to be
non-commercial.
non-ad spots.
it's going to be a commercial for companies that no longer exist.
And amongst other things, pretty much whatever makes me laugh. So be prepared for random crap.
So we're never going to get a check.
Probably not.
Not from Burma Shave. Maybe from some of the other stuff, but definitely not from Burma Shave. They spent all their money on road
right.
signs.
Okay. Well, no, I think they got that out.
So Brian May had a heart attack. I don't know if you heard that.
Oh, Brian May from Queen.
Yeah. He's still alive, but a few weeks after rupturing some sort of gluteal muscle while gardening, he also then almost dies of a heart attack. Which
might answer why he said it was the worst pain he ever felt, because he was having both.
And it definitely means that you shouldn't garden. It's bad for your health.
Okay.
Oh, and the general, we're going to get all the sad news out of the way. The general from Stargate died.
The general?
Hammond.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah. That's what I saw a little bit ago.
No, that's too bad. Of course, he
From
must
the
have
show or
been
the movie?
must have been 90.
The TV show.
The actual actor.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty sure that the guy in the movie, if he's just, that was what, 94? So if he's still around,
he's got to be.
He's got to be up there.
Yeah.
So,
Can't say that I remember him being in anything else. Now I would have to look it up.
Just unexpectedly, or was there any more on that?
no, I didn't see anything where it talked about,
The general?
yeah, I just
dying?
saw the thing. Yeah. The notification. I did find something that I found interesting. You always hear wine drinkers say how much, wine they drink and they brag about it. And I found a chart comparing the gambit of alcohol. So 12 fluid ounces of regular beer equals 8 to 9 fluid ounces of malt liquor equals 5 fluid ounces of table wine or an ounce and a half of distilled spirits.
Huh.
I've never heard that before because I was looking it up because I hear...
So you were trying to make a comparison.
Yeah, because I always hear somebody say, like, yeah, I have 2 or 3 glasses of wine a night. And, some of these wine people kind of look down on beer people. I mean, I don't like beer in general, but I just thought it was interesting to see, what's the difference is. Their 5 fluid ounces of wine is basically a beer. It just happens to be something they prefer.
Yeah, and that's pretty much what it. I've been a beer guy and a wine guy. I didn't get into wine till later, basically because I was trying to date a particular lady who liked wine, and so I was like, "Wine, great, awesome."
At least this time trying to get into something for a woman didn't involve you doing something stupid.
It always involves me doing something stupid, like pretending I like wine. But I just didn't know.
That's what I was just going to say. Going to say.
Yeah, I once pretended to be into running, like just moving your feet fucking faster than normal.
God.
Like, the hell was I thinking?
As much as you smoke or smoked?
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous for 1,000 reasons.
They must have thought a train is coming, whatever would block your running by, seeing all the puff of smoke.
Yeah. But I always thought wine was for like class.
I was just thinking of the wheezing.
Or, the people who like to
Snobs, right? Wine
just
snobs.
hang out and wine snobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And she comes over and we shared a bottle of wine, which is basically 2 glasses of wine. Okay, if anybody's curious. And after 2 glasses of wine, I was like, "Oh, I got to get up and go to the bathroom real quick." I couldn't believe how much I staggered when I got up on like 2 glasses of wine. I was like, "Oh, rich people are getting fuck up.
So
this is not like I'm just going to have a glass or two of wine. Like, no, you're catching a buzz. People.
Oh, yeah.
So according to this chart, so the beer is about 5%, the malt liquor's about 7%, and this is what they're using to compare the two, all of them. Wine, they say, is about 12%, and alcohol is 40%. The distilled spirits is 40% and above. Really depending on what you want.
That's about average.
Yeah, 12 to 14%, depending on what kind of wine you get.
I wish I was into wine, but I'll be completely honest. My enjoyment of hard alcohol is actually cheaper.
Well, I was going to say your pocketbook couldn't afford wine.
If my wine taste would be like my taste for
wine
cigars,
will mess you up.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, it's just like if I had wine taste like I do for cigars, I would never be able to drink at all.
No.
Like maybe once every 6 years.
I think we've all gone.
Well, that's the thing is,
I bring this
great wines that are in like the $20 that are fantastic.
It's interesting. I mean, yes, if you get somebody who really knows their wine well and can recommend a good pairing with a particular dish, yes, I can. I understand that. My problem is there's something about my wallet snapping closed when they see this bottle is going to be anywhere from $25 to $50 for a bottle of wine, and it's like
right.
It's not happening. I don't care how good it pairs.
See, the issue I have with wine too is you could easily, at least I could see myself easily drinking that whole bottle. Or if I spend $60 on a quality thing of like whiskey, there's no chance in hell I'm going to drink the whole thing in one sitting. It's just not possible for me personally to do.
I'm with you. I couldn't either. So.
Like all the alcohol in my cabinet right now, especially that creme de menthe, some of it's gonna die with me.
So would you spend hundreds of dollars for a really good bottle of blended Scotch whiskey, or
the way I am right now? No.
Well, maybe
no,
right
because,
now during this whole COVID-19.
Okay, single, no kid.
If my taste for alcohol was up to the point where I could tell the difference between, say, like a Buffalo Trace versus like a high-end Scotch whiskey, yes, but I can't, so no. However, I can tell you the difference between a $5 cigar and a $30 cigar. There's a big difference to me between flavor, the way it drags, the taste in your mouth, but I just can't do that with a difference on like distilled spirits. Mm-hmm. There are ones I want to try that are up there. Like was it Appleton Estates, there's Applejack. There's a couple of ones that are up there just because I don't think they're made a lot. And I've heard the ones to get, if you can find any alcohol that's bottle and bond, is the one to get, because it's the description I heard, it's from a whole year's collection of whatever ingredients in there. And so I could see spending that, but no, I wish. Like one of the things I want to do, and I just never did, I'd love to find a bottle of wine or a thing of whiskey that was made the year my son was born. And when he heard it's 21, it's like, here, son, I've had this since,
Get the distilled spirits, because
with
your luck, that bottle of wine will go bad by the time it's 21.
I think you get port the year that from the year that like your kid is born and you drink it on their 18th birthday.
It better be
but
20.
Port ages pretty well.
Yeah.
If I ever did that, I would need something that doesn't require like maintenance. Like with wine, I've heard not only do you have to keep it in a special like temperature wise, every so once in a while you're supposed to turn it to a certain degree, and it's just like my life is so busy. There's no chance in hell I would remember it to do that. Like I know me, I would give my son really expensive.
Well, there's tannins and sediment and everything that needs to. There's tannins and sediment that need to be moved, that will settle in certain spots. That's why, like, you have bottles that are angled down. It's so that stuff settles on the cork. So when you pull it out, it comes out with the cork. So there's things like that, but I just would never. I don't know.
So I got the next $1 million idea. Take like the thing that you use to warm hot dogs up in the like 7-Eleven. Make a giant version of that for a bottle of wine.
Better yet, have you seen how the watch makers collections, these guys collect all these automatic watches?
With the automatic rotating watches.
Yes.
Love that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just make that for wine bottles.
I love it. because it's such a I've got too much money kind of a thing to have.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And now there's this
Yeah.
watch club. Have you heard about it? It's called the Watch Gang, I believe. And it's a club that you pay into.
No.
Yeah, it's the new thing for all these automatic watch snobs, and you join this club, and depending at what level you buy in, and I think the lowest level is $100 a month, up to I don't know $2,000 or $3,000 a month,
Yeesh.
depending on what you want, and you get a watch every month, and it could be anywhere from a Rolex to a Seiko. Who knows? You know, it's one of these crapshoot things. You don't know what you're going to get. And that's the new thing now with these automatic watch collectors. They're doing that. So whatever.
I don't.
Oh gosh.
I'll be honest. I don't get it. I mean, I love my Apple Watch, and that's pretty much. I'm 100% happy with just having an Apple Watch.
You know, I totally get it because I probably own somewhere around 50 watches. Ask me how many run.
Okay, how many run?
2. So, but I never bought, I had one time a Rolex, an actual Rolex in my life. And I was offered more money for that watch 20 years later than it was worth sitting on my wrist. So I took it.
And that would become the problem for me is just like I can't justify keeping this when somebody's offering me X amount of dollars for it.
So
yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's literally what happened.
So I went on watchgang.com. So here's how it is. Here's the original. So monthly it's $49.99 United States dollars, and you can prepay. Black tier, and see the original tier watches are a max of $150. The black tier watches are worth up to $500. That's $99, and I feel like Ron Popeil. Platinum tier month to month is $300. Watches are worth up to $1,500.
God.
By the way, for $300, I better guaranteed to get a watch that's worth more than the money I'm putting into it. Or else I'd be.
Dude, you've got to imagine with any of these subscription types of things, the house is going to win.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, but here's my thought. Say if you really wanted to gamble on it and you just did it for 1 month. What are the chances of you getting a watch that's not like a Timex? Because they say up to. They don't necessarily say it's going to be lower than. No lower than.
It'll be a brand that you haven't heard of.
I'd say 1 out of 50.
Yeah, it is a crapshoot. So,
I'll be honest.
Yeah, I'd say the actual low.
It sounds.
You're gonna get ripped off, John.
I agree with Ryan. This is definitely these are people that have too much money. They need help to spend it. So, here's my offer to you guys. If you have too much money and you really want to spend it, I know a bunch of people, us, who would love to take your money, and please send it to us.
Hey, did you know?
I wouldn't complain. You can send it to me.
Did you know? Can you guess?
Yes.
Just recently, let's say Saturday, what was the world's busiest airport?
Heathrow.
Okay, wrong. Next.
Las Vegas.
Denver.
Wrong. Ding ding! I should be on the board. All right, because this one
Alaska.
this one I would have never gotten. So Alaska's
Omaha.
Anchorage International Airport
Really?
became the world's busiest airport on Saturday.
What the hell?
It has to do with cargo operations and the way, flying over where the companies are coming from and what countries are coming from. Saturday is a busy day for cargo operations anyway in this airport, and it had 744 flight operations, where Chicago, which was also ranked number 1 multiple times, only had 579.
Wow.
Atlanta, which is was the current largest amount of flights for any given year, was only 529. So poor little Anchorage Airport was overwhelmed on Saturday.
So I was I was recently in a big box store.
Oh, so much for that story. You can play the crickets too for that. All right. Well, airplane geek would get that. All right. Move on. Go to your big box store story. We know your big box story is better than the fact that Anchorage came out.
Nobody was chiming in, so I'm just trying to keep things moving.
Keep it going.
I actually found this amusing, so this will be very short before Rob finds another plane story.
Show all the time.
Well, old guy's grumpy. I don't think you took your nap this afternoon.
Stop interrupting.
No, that's not going to help.
I should not be at 34 a fan of naps the way I am. Just saying.
Dude, I skip
Why not?
I skip lunch half the time to take naps. They're amazing.
I take naps specifically because I make the mistake of eating like a big ass lunch.
I might eat lunch once a week, actually.
Yeah, I really try.
So it's you know how those masks have become very popular. I was recently in a big box store, and those paper masks you ladies put over their faces.
Surgical style.
No, well, yeah, right. No, that's the beauty masks. It's usually they have eye cutouts, usually a mouth cutout.
Okay.
And I was in a box store, and I thought this was funny. Now they have them for arms, thighs, neck, bust, belly, and butt. And
they do what?
So according to this, they say for the bust, it's boosting and toning, and it's a sheet mask, and it says for belly, it's firming and smoothing, butt is smoothing and toning. So I'm really hoping it's the exact same product, because I think that'd be a great way to sell more product if somebody's like, well, I'm just going to get all these will help everywhere.
Isn't this just the regurgitation of products that were out in the 60s, the same kind of thing? They slap stuff on their bodies and hopefully to tone them up, or
nothing's new.
Are they?
Yeah.
Gonna bring back
seeing,
what the heck was that? The shake thing?
Yeah, exactly. With the belt around your waist.
Yeah.
Whatever fucking reason.
Reminds me of the shake.
I remember seeing that every old black and white.
Exactly, and it's too bad it didn't work.
Reminds me of the Shake Weight episode of what is that show on the Comedy Channel?
Park?
South Park, yeah.
South Park.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting because
I actually saw a TV show with that shake thing, that Agatha Christie 4 Horsemen thing. I think it was on Prime.
Yeah,
they actually had that some lady in that show using it, and it takes place in the 1940s or so.
There you go.
It's actually pretty interesting to see somebody actually using it in a TV show again.
That's funny. Yeah, things come around. So everybody ready for tomorrow? Tomorrow's a big day.
Yeah.
Cape Canaveral, Florida.
Elon Musk is...
Oh, is that actually tomorrow?
That's actually tomorrow. We're going to launch 2 astronauts.
Shit. I'm so fucking excited.
My favorite part, first time in world history, a private entity is launching people into space.
Yeah.
That's why I'm excited.
I would say
fucking fantastic.
That are alive, because weren't they for a while you could shoot your ashes into orbit? Didn't they do that with...
I think there's companies that still do that.
They did that with Scotty.
Yeah.
James Doohan.
But yeah, so the launch is tomorrow. And I believe it's supposed to be sometime around noon. I got it. I have to look at
1:30, I heard. No, let's hope let's hope it actually goes right and doesn't be like another Challenger. I just saw 1:30, so
yeah, Pacific time. Yeah, the article I'm looking at is insane.
Yeah, 1:30 Pacific.
Yeah.
So the only thing I'm hoping it's not another Challenger disaster. I really hope this goes off without a hitch. And
oh man, I'm hoping it is
another disaster.
On the other side of that.
So yeah, 1:33 Pacific. No. Well, now they're changing it. NASA and SpaceX are currently targeting Wednesday at 4:33 p.m. Eastern time, so it would be 1:33 Pacific time. So
okay, because I'm excited and I'm really.
If anybody out there is hoping that it is a disaster, that'd be weird.
No, man, I am
saying we're not hoping for a Challenger.
I guarantee there's somebody.
I can't wait for this to work and work right and get these guys there, and we can get the hell away from Russia.
I do.
Yeah, no kidding. That's what's been bumming me out. Is wait, we've been using the Russian Soyuz rockets this whole time?
Yes. Yes, since the last shuttle went up in 2011.
Yeah.
They've been getting a lot of money.
That's too long to be relying on the. I mean, look, when it comes to space travel, I love that everyone's adopted this, like, hey, we're all in this together, kind of thing. But I mean, to me, it's so tied in with American pride.
Oh yeah,
the amazing space technology we have and rocketry and all that stuff, even though we did jack a bunch of people from the Germans. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, American pride. No, I'm more prideful in the heart attack grill and
Elon Musk, right? It's
South
African pride.
Well, no. Technically, if he's a U.S. citizen,
he is a U.S. citizen.
So technically, he's American.
That's
so
true. That is true.
I do think it's funny. It's like
so is Obama.
So even though you can't pronounce his child's name, and
jeez.
I thought John had the no politics sign up.
No, what's James? So you can't.
I'm busting up because every time I say something, there's like a delay, so it like took you guys a while on.
I do think it's weird though that you either have a weird politician or a weird billionaire, and the weird billionaire is really kicking ass. He's running like 3 companies.
This Dragon space capsule that you're talking about can actually hold 7 people.
Jeez.
We've never had.
That's awesome.
But that's not SpaceX capsule. That's somebody else, right?
No, that's SpaceX capsule.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's called the Dragon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Crew Dragon. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know it could hold 7 people.
Yeah.
So
That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
So 6 and a mother-in-law.
By the way, speaking of space, have you guys seen the Space Force fucking logo?
Yes.
Is that not your favorite thing in the world right now?
Wouldn't you be full of pride to have that on your uniform?
Oh man, I absolutely would. And if I'm Gene Roddenberry's estate, I'm not saying shit. You guys can use that all day.
That's right.
So anybody have? Well, technically, it's the government. What are you going to do? Stop a branch of the military from using a logo? So what the fuck do they actually
you
do?
can sue the government for copyright infringement.
Yeah, it's not going to get very far.
But it wouldn't go anywhere yet.
Let's be honest. I mean, the government's the king of opening the patent office and using whatever they want.
Hell, this thing even has a toilet in it.
I hope so.
Well, none of the Gemini or Apollo or nothing ever had a toilet.
Well, they wore diapers.
They had funny. Let's not talk about it. Never mind. Sorry.
It could be a long trip.
They did.
It just surprised me that it's a toilet in it.
You know what it is when it docks when it docks with the International Space Station. Like, oh, we got an extra toilet.
You know what's really interesting is if you look at the guys, look it up and look at their spacesuits. They're very modernistic.
Don't they look kind of like 2001?
In a way, yeah. They're very everything's kind of cool. I mean, compared to all the old stuff and all the controls or touch screens and all kinds of stuff that the Chinese can hack while it's up in the air.
I mean, unlike the NASA spacesuits to still look like the 1960s.
Exactly. This is more like all the movies we've been watching for the last 25, 30 years.
No kidding. I love that they're really steering into the fun of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. It'll be fun. Anyway, I can't wait. I hope it goes off.
It's fantastic.
If it doesn't go off tomorrow, it's scheduled again to go off on Saturday.
So anybody want to do the under, over, or place a bet on the chances of it actually exploding and be an epic disaster?
I would.
Man, as many of those rockets as they've launched, I'll take that bet all damn day.
Well, actually, SpaceX has done a really, really good job. They've been launching capsules to the International Space Station for the last, 3-4 years, and they've had great success.
They've had another failure.
I was going to say
50, what do you call it? Successful launches at least.
Yeah. No, they were.
But they actually built in. Nobody except the Soyuz rockets has had an escape pod thing like the Crew Dragon has, which is almost the part that I'm excited about. Is if something does go wrong, it's like, hey, we can get these people away and have this fail safe. Which, as soon as I heard about that, because I've only been aware of the Soyuz having that for a couple of years. I'm sure they've had it for a while. But I was like, wait, that's a thing? Why didn't anybody think of this shit before?
Does it turn into a cannoli like the Cars and Demolition Man?
You know,
it basically breaks your neck as it floats you away from the exploding aircraft, but it's moving you so fast that you really don't want to be in that thing.
Exactly.
But you'll probably live.
So the shuttle never had there was no way of having any of the crew eject out of it, and you were stuck for the ride no matter what happened, and that was the unfortunate part. So,
Ryan, I wouldn't want to be in anything that explodes.
Probably not a good idea.
I'm just saying that. Okay. I don't care if it turns into a cannoli or not. I don't want to be in it if it explodes.
You could be the guy in the circuses that shoots out of the cannon.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, that's not really like an explosion. That's just combustion.
It's a mock explosion.
I mean,
big spring.
Yeah. It's air pressure.
It's really a giant bottle rocket, like the water ones you got as a kid.
A water rocket. Yeah, I like that. Did I get you one of those as a kid?
It's basically a giant potato gun.
Or a potato gun. That's right.
It's like that description from was it Armageddon? We're strapped to so many tons of TNT that was put together by the lowest bidder.
And that was so true. And some of the first launches, particularly of the Saturn V rocket, they did not know if these guys were going to make it or not, if it was going to blow up or if it was actually going to work. I mean, it was.
Yeah, the guys on the station are feeling a lot better than those guys did first time out. They're feeling pretty confident.
There's some particularly brutal, like, dead astronaut jokes. If you want to see like how dark some of the people got about it. So I'm not surprised that some of these people weren't expecting to return. I mean, it's just like the astronauts that landed on the moon were like, well, let's hope we get back.
Exactly. And it was that way.
Yeah, they didn't know if they were going to.
Oh, James, I know you have the show Glow.
What? Yeah.
Have you guys seen the show Glow? About
I haven't
the
watched
Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling?
No.
It's a really good show, for the record.
Really?
There was a scene, James will probably know what I'm talking about, where they're given like a promo, on TV, kind of deep cable style of, their wrestling show coming up. And it was sort of the lead in to a shuttle launch. And I'm like, watching this. It takes me about 5 seconds, and I'm like, wait, what year did this take place? Oh, no. And they're doing this, like, really lighthearted promo right as the Challenger explodes. And watching that scene and the look on their faces of, like, oh, my God. It was the juxtaposition was incredible. But, I mean, I couldn't imagine. I wasn't fair. What year was that, 85? Challenger?
I think you're.
I was either barely born or
it was mid-80s.
We have a video cassette of the report of it somewhere, VHS.
Yeah,
I got to watch it all, guys.
You were there
from the beginning. From the beginning,
I don't remember.
What was that like? Being there, ground floor, like you're watching just another exciting space shuttle launch, and then shit.
Yeah. So I mean, as a kid, I got to start with the Mercury project and go into the Gemini project that went into the Apollo project, and so there was always something exciting about space. I mean, as a kid growing up, that brought in so many scientists and guys wanting to be engineers and be involved with all of that. It was just an amazing time.
So how do you feel that all these kids went from wanting to be engineers to Twitch game streamers?
It's truly a sad state of affairs, isn't it?
They went from wanting to help the human race leave the confines of Earth to being a reality TV star and Instagram influencer.
I think SpaceX is bringing a lot of that
back.
But
how many people is this going to bring back to space travel and wanting to be engineers and scientists?
I think once people see Elon Musk and really kind of see how much he's really into it, I think it'll help. and the fact like how fast he's innovating. He's innovating his rockets, from what I've read, faster than really anybody ever, because everything's right there. So if there's an issue, they figure out what it is. So they go out, build the next one, and they fix it. They've been innovating incredibly fast, like insanely fast for like space shuttles and rocket technology.
That's because he's an alien.
He could be, or just South African.
He might be, considering what he named his child. That's got to be an alien name with a click in it. Right.
I mean, he was basically...
I'm not even going to look up the name of his child. I really don't even want... I mean, maybe John could actually pronounce it.
It's not pronounceable. And then they changed it this weekend, too. They added or took away... I don't know.
It reads like a mathematical formula.
Yeah.
They added more consonants.
The answer is probably 42. No, don't.
That's
like
his middle name.
You need the crickets and
what's the Hitchhiker, the Guide to the Galaxy reference?
Guys to the Galaxy, yeah.
I like Elon Musk. He's odd.
That answers it all.
Well, because I love the fact that he's just trying stuff that's never really been tried. I mean, he's the saving grace for the electric car. Because I think without Tesla, and I preferably, I think the Tesla with Elon Musk, I think saved the electric car. He's bringing back like these really weird tunnels. He just got done doing his second or third. No, it's his first tunnel in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
He just got done doing that loop. And, you know, I don't know. I like Elon Musk, and he doesn't care about controversy. He had that flamethrower, and all of a sudden everybody was making it illegal to have flamethrowers, when if you look at it, it's like the same one you can buy for roofers. Yeah. Just modified.
Yeah, no, those things are not flamethrowers.
So I don't know. I like Elon Musk.
It's just fun.
He's just like a billionaire troll.
I mean, he got to say he sent his own personal Tesla to Mars. Now, how many people can say that?
So is it going to come back like V'ger?
It's never coming back. It's just going to keep on going.
Yeah, when he first landed that one rocket, though, the one that actually had the what do you call it? Landed the booster on the platform.
Yeah.
That was the coolest thing I've ever fucking seen.
When you watch both of them landing at the same time,
the twin landing was awesome.
Yeah, the twin landing, and they both actually made it. It was like, my God, it's like something out of Hollywood. It was incredible.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, if he wants to be a fucking evil mad genius, I'm totally into it. Let him do whatever the hell he wants.
So is he Tony Stark, or is he Stane? Obadiah Stane?
He's Tony Stark.
You think so?
I think so.
Definitely a Tony Stark, for sure.
Mad genius.
I don't know. Sure, he's still out.
James came into this awfully late. Are you awake there, James? You're usually a lot faster.
Oh, I'm here. It's just there's such a delay every time I speak.
Oh, yeah.
At least like 5-10 seconds before you guys hear me.
It's all this social distancing that we're being forced to do now.
Right. It's John's fault.
Okay, it's John's fault.
Right. Go ahead. Blame me. That's sure. So come on.
I'm not blaming you. I'm just telling the truth.
Keep thinking that.
I was just looking up.
I would have to think that when I know it.
So come on. You have a topic, or?
Yeah, we did our job.
Yeah, you all want to talk about space. Why don't we talk about the ocean?
Okay.
We never talk about the dangers of the ocean and the fact that we know less about the ocean than we do about space.
Oh yeah, I'm way more comfortable going to space.
Prove it. Prove to me that we know less about the ocean than we do about space.
How often do we talk about rogue waves?
Okay.
So
the problem is people making these statements. I look at them. Okay, so how did you come up with the statistics to be able to say that we know less about the ocean than we do about space? Who came up with that? And prove it.
So,
well, technically depends on where we actually look in space.
Yeah, or whatever.
So, a former WWE wrestler died.
I'm a doubter.
In the ocean. And I figured since Rob grew up near the ocean, we would talk about how people survive riptides, because this guy died in a riptide.
Oh, I know exactly how to get out of riptides.
Shad Gaspard, one of the guys from Crime Time.
Angle.
Yeah, you just have to swim parallel to the shore.
Oh yeah.
For a number of until you can actually see. If you've ever been in a riptide, you can actually see what it's doing, and you just swim parallel to the ocean. You just swim until you can see where it's not being pulled out, and then you come back in.
So if there's
I survived many of them.
So this gentleman got caught in the wave with his son. People came out to rescue him, told them to grab his son. He ended up passing away. But if there's any move to say you want to applaud somebody, it's like being the ultimate hero was getting his son saved.
I applaud him for that because unfortunately there was only one lifeguard that was able to get to him. I applaud him for doing that. What I don't applaud him for is the fact that I would guess he was not a very strong swimmer. They got pulled out, and he was not able to keep himself alive, and it's a shame. I'm sorry.
Probably panic sets in. You start getting worried. You start making bad decisions. You don't know what to do, and you start doing the opposite of what you should do.
Well, yeah. It's part of not growing up near. I don't really know about his background, but I didn't grow up near the ocean, so I keep my white ass out of the ocean because I don't know how to survive in riptides. I don't know how to survive any of that.
Says that he was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Well, he's near some
But he
water.
died in Venice Beach.
Yeah, there's no chance he's swimming in any of the.
He's not in the Pacific Ocean. So
he wouldn't be swimming in New York. He didn't have an extra limb.
It was really sad.
Huh.
It's just a shame, but people do these things. I don't quite get it.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, but Rob's right. That's what I've always been told is when you get caught in a riptide, you swim at an angle into the shore. You don't swim straight back in. You're just going to get pulled right out.
Right.
If I remember correctly, and if I remember correctly, I remember somebody years ago saying, and to turn on your back and float and just swim. So you're not burning energy. You're not trying to force yourself to stay afloat. I don't know how much is true, but that's what
the salt water will keep
I think that's if you can't get out of it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, all right. So you do float better in salt water than you do fresh water. And you're right. If you're out in the middle of the ocean somewhere and you're dumped out, you can't keep paddling. So how do you do it? And part of it is floating on your back. But I would believe that back in my day, having gone a bit through the lifeguard program, they were also told that, if you could not get both people, 3 people, 4 people back, you told them how to get out of the riptide while you basically did it. And so this gentleman, if he had been a strong swimmer, would have just followed the lifeguard in with his son and may have survived. But that's second guessing everything, and so that's not fair.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what happened. I mean,
we don't know the situation.
Yeah,
and I'm actually really bummed. I mean, besides the fact somebody actually lost their life, and he was a member of Crime Time was for that section in time was my favorite WWE duo because they were hilarious.
Yeah, they were pretty damn good.
And Ken Osmond died. This is going to be the episode of death. You know what the weirdest thing is? How many people?
Okay.
Well, this is going to be weird. That he played Eddie Haskell in Leave It to Beaver.
Oh.
My question is, how many people?
I have not heard him.
How many people would have known who he is? Because it was on a lot. Because I don't think it was expensive to run. In reruns when we were kids, but I haven't seen it on TV in years. I wonder if he was somebody that somebody would have known, or is it like Petticoat Junction where you have to be a certain age to actually know what the fuck it is?
Yeah, nobody our age watched Leave It to Beaver.
I loved Leave It to Beaver as a kid, and was it my?
I did.
I loved it as a kid. That Leave It to Beaver, Flipper, was it Father's Knows Best or My Three Sons?
Yeah.
There was another one. I totally dug all those shows.
Wayback Machine going. Huh?
I'm trying to remember all the old shows because they were so.
He never moved very far.
Well,
he was born in Glendale, California, and died in Los Angeles.
He
didn't go very far in his life.
Ken Osmond.
He was moving around. Yeah.
I mean, if you
still LA.
Wow.
I mean, if you grew up in LA and you loved it, I'm not surprised. I mean, he was an actor, so there's really only one place for an actor.
Okay.
No comment.
Huh.
I mean,
depending on the kind of acting you're doing.
I was just looking to see if he did anything else.
I think he did parts here.
He was a cop.
Yeah. You imagine getting pulled over by Eddie Haskell?
Sure.
No.
Why not?
That'd be hilarious.
I'm just shocked that he was a police officer.
Well, you got to do something after your 5 minutes of fame are over.
You can't do what, what's his name? Danny Bonaducci did.
Oh, wow.
Oh, what? More?
He was a police officer for 18 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
I wonder how often in his life somebody recognized him and said, hey, you wouldn't happen to be on TV.
Probably in the beginning of his career.
Well, he was a police officer from... He was a police officer in 1970 to 1988. I guarantee people knew Eddie Haskell back then.
Oh, yeah, because it had to be pennies on the dollar cheaper to rerun a TV show from the 50s, early 60s on repeat on TV show when we were kids, when it was to do shows like Night Court, etc. So I wouldn't be surprised if Brian, James, and our generation was really the last people to actually see that show on some sort of consistent basis, because all that stuff was on when we were kids. I thought it was a new show.
Yeah.
Here's, there was my dad going, yeah, I saw it. Sorry, son.
Yeah.
I had my son watching the Andy Griffith Show for a while. He liked it.
There you go.
So, I mean, it's one of those shows, I think my son would probably still like Leave It to Beaver, but the Munsters.
Well, I think
those family.
I think
absolutely. There's more classic TV.
Those were good shows.
Well, I think those shows are universal, though, and I think they're a lot more universal than most of the shows that are on now. Because one, you've got very simple storytelling, you've got very clear narratives, very classic narratives, very American nuclear family narratives. But so I don't think those shows will ever not be classics. Versus, if you take a look like the Dragnet 1960 through 1970. As much as I like the show, it's a time capsule from the language they use to the sets they use, versus if you take a look at Hawaiian 5-0, which started out in like late 60s, 68, 67, and lasted till the early 80s. That was way ahead of its time, and even now, to some degree, is only really aging in some areas if you watch it now. Hawaii 5-0.
The original.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hawaii 5-0, if you take a look from the sets to the way they speak to the clothes were 70, but overall the method of storytelling is still very modern up until I think drama, everything came super dramatized. I think now everything's super drama.
So the reboot just ended.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Last episode was a couple of weeks ago.
Was it any good? I never saw it.
At times.
Because I was a fan of the original, but...
Yeah, at times it was good. It was entertaining. I mean, sometimes when you need mindless stuff to watch.
And reality TV's not on.
Well, we DVR everything, so... Yeah.
So do you think there's going to be
any... I was going to say, it's...
I don't watch any modern television just because I don't have time and I don't really have cable, etc. Are there any shows you think 10, 20 years from now will be classics, like the Andy Griffith Show, like
Rick
shows
and
like
Morty?
That? Rick, you think so?
Fuck yeah.
Well,
actually, you know what I'm
Morty.
rewatching for the second time right now, which has gotten a new life on Netflix, is Community. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show.
Community.
It's a comedy show. Isn't that the one where Chevy Chase got fired from?
See, I don't watch comedies or dramedies. I don't get them.
MASH. I think MASH will be a millennial a classic. I think over time it's going to be aged out, but I do think that's going to stay popular for a long time just because it's a classic tale.
Yeah, MASH is good.
I think the only thing people are going to get tired of, and I know I do at times, is how heavy-handed Alan Alda was in the storytelling of it. Because somebody once told me, in an interview, said when you were on the thing with MASH and Alan Alda directed, he said it was God, then Alan Alda speaking for God. And he said it got really annoying dealing with Alan Alda because how egotistical, or a pain in the ass he was to deal with.
Huh.
And I read somewhere that Jamie Farr got in a fight with him.
That'd be an interesting one to watch. I got money on Jamie Farr.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Did
he have high heels on?
Cole still would have beaten him up.
Yeah. Because I think NCIS will age well, because it's another thing because I think it's basic classic stories. It's simple storytelling.
I don't think procedurals in general are going to age very well. I mean, there's always going to be a crowd of people that watches that stuff.
Well,
you know what?
John.
Hold on. I don't think Law and Order will age well. I think NCS. I think the first couple of seasons will age well.
I think Law and Order will eventually will be okay. You know, the one that Criminal Minds is the one that'll probably stay for a long time.
You think so?
Besides the fact that it had a very long
run.
The
ones I don't see. I kind of go with John on this one. He's saying things like Dragnet don't age very well, but then you're going to throw in NCIS, Criminal Minds, things like that. I don't think those are going to age very well, because, I mean, there's the technology of the investigation are going to stay stagnant when those techniques are going to advance and get better.
That's what I think the difference between Criminal Minds and NCIS. I think Criminal Minds will stay more relevant than NCIS ever will.
I think James is right. Now that he points at it that way. The only reason I say like some of the modern stuff is because I'm watching it now today. But if you watch like the movie Gattaca and you watch some of the older technology, it ages you out as soon as you see that, because it's such a futuristic telling.
Well, as soon as you see a CRT display, you're done.
Yeah. So I can.
I always looked at Gattaca as more. I mean,
do you think Matlock ages?
I couldn't tell you the last time I saw an episode of Matlock. It's like asking, does diagnostic murder age well?
No, I mean, there are obviously shows that, you will forgive the aging of it and watch the storyline and enjoy it for what it is versus what it's showing.
Roseanne. I think Roseanne, to some degree, is always gonna last well because the story. I think it's the story,
original
the original Roseanne, because of the storytelling method of it being a typical Midwestern family or a semi-typical Midwestern family in a certain period of time, and so there's always going to be somebody who can empathize with one of the characters. So I think that's something that's going to stay around, and I think. Now that I think about it, maybe that's what makes good television. Like if you take a look at the Andy Griffith Show or My Three Sons or some of these older TV shows, there's always a character that somebody throughout history is going to be able to say, oh, that was my dad, or, oh, that was me when I was a kid.
So what about the shows like, what was it, Archie Bunker?
All in the Family?
All in the Family, the Jefferson.
Now, same thing. I think that's the same thing, especially... everybody had an Archie Bunker in their life. Jefferson's, I'm not sure of.
Well, I guess what I'm thinking is, I think some of it, what they got away with the writing and some of the stuff that they did.
Well, you can't do
I don't
it now.
think today you could ever get away with it. And people would be protesting in the streets. And,
Oh yeah. If you out there and you've never seen All in the Family, I wish I remembered what it is, but there's a particular episode with an African-American guy carving an apple, and the whole story revolves around that. And he's very in your face. He's kind of an asshole, very racist, very lovable racist. But it was a great show. If you've never seen it, check it out. Because I think it's revolutionary. It was a great way to talk about things that were happening in the modern ethos and having it reflect society.
It was very much in the time. I think it brought up. I don't know why we're talking about
those ones that are a time capsule. The appeal is that they're still stories about people. They're still family stories.
Yeah, like
the ones that have like James was saying, the specific investigation techniques that are going to be so dated so fast. That a younger generation isn't going to have a basis for comparison and stuff like that. But the stuff about family, no matter when it takes place, is always relevant.
Like my comment on the original Roseanne, minus the last season.
Right. Yeah, same thing with, what do you call it?
Family Matters.
Well, yeah, Family Matters.
All in the Family, Full House.
Like Saved by the Bell, the sorts of kids kinds of shows. But, Mary.
Oh, God. No, Saved by the Bell was just the outfits.
Oh, Married with
Children. Love that show.
Well, I think, I think, I think what we're basically saying is I think the stories that are going to last, the TV shows that will always be timeless, is the ones that have something that you can empathize and connect to. Roseanne, whether you're talking about Married with Children, stuff like that, even the Jeffersons, where like Dragnet, the 1967 through 1970, because there was a previous version of Dragnet before that, is incredibly a timepiece. It is a time capsule of a time that never really existed. So versus if you take a look at Roseanne, if you take a look at Roseanne is more true to form, is more true to life.
Yeah, well, that was the deal even about
looking up. I was trying to find a show
about this not great family.
Well, what were you going to say, James?
Well, I was going to kind of agree with him on Married with Children. And the other thing about Married with Children, the reason why it would always be dated is freaking shoulder pads.
Yeah, right.
Any TV show with shoulder pads on women is dated.
I think the haircuts.
I think you're the one thing I got to say is how forgiving people really are of clothing and style choices on TV and movies. Because if you take a look at not Married with Children, like some of the 50s shows, some of the clothing and some of the stuff in 50s is very time period. And I think people are more forgiving of that because I just don't think they notice as much if that's kind of what you went into to watch it. Because people pay more attention, I believe, to the stories and what's happening. And then the clothing and the styling, I think, is second place.
So, you bring up a good point that I was just thinking about. I listen to a lot of old-time radio, and one of my favorite shows is Dragnet, which is strictly on radio. And what you don't get is you don't see what they're wearing. You don't see their clothes. You don't see their hair. You don't see. So you actually get more of the actual story versus any of the eye candy, I guess you would call it, that you may be looking at, which makes you center more on the actual story.
Well, so when I first subscribed to Amazon Prime, the TV version, I was looking at it, I'm like, I'm going through all the shows, and I'm like, oh, these are shows I used to like to watch. And one of them I picked up was, like, I used to like the old TV show Highlander.
Oh, yeah.
And so I started watching that one, and that was the first thing that stuck out like a sore thumb was all the clothing. The big, puffy, colorful jackets from the 80s, the shoulder pads on the women's, like all of their clothes, they had shoulder pads. The big puffy pants, the old Hammer parachute pants, things like that. And it really got me thinking, and I had to look it up because I used to watch a show with my mom when we lived in Southern California back in the 80s, Perry Mason.
Yeah.
And I love that show, and I'm bringing it up because John is bringing up law TV shows, and that one is one that I think, if you look at it now, I think it still ages well, is because the law doesn't change all that much. It's simple storytelling, and even the outfits, I mean, they're all going to be definitely time period, but I mean, with a black and white show, it's more forgivable than what I would say you're going to get into if you get into the TV shows of the 70s, 80s, and early 90s. You're going to have a lot more clothing that is more time period for that era, as far as, like the puffy clothes, the kind of,
I think
kind of
some
what I'm
of,
getting at.
I think some of that, though, is because we lived through it. I think you have a tendency to look back on it because you yourself saw things change and clothing styles change. So I think some of that is because you look back at it, or you have a romantic view of that time until you come back and see it and see kind of the ridiculous nature of it. I mean, what do you think?
What the hell
Rob?
were we thinking?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think James' line of "What the hell were we thinking?" is probably true.
Well, bottom line is nostalgia will always sell.
Oh yeah, and I think people are more forgiving.
True.
I think good storytelling or simple storytelling, I think will always will always make whatever styling choices the people are wearing is forgivable, because people get engrossed into the story. Because we all, because I think by human nature, we all love the fireside tales. So that's what kind of those TV shows are, is it's the fireside tale of watching Perry Mason or watching whatever. Now, some stuff doesn't age well, obviously. But I do think good storytelling will always make like an mid-80s TV show more forgivable. Like Miami Vice is ridiculous, especially now. But I
think of Perry Mason.
Well, I think because some of the storytelling is
would be the smoking.
Well, yeah.
Right.
But I think if you get really engrossed into the story of Miami Vice, I think you'll be forgiving of the Don Johnson look and, you know, all the stuff they did.
Writing just wasn't that good for Miami
Vice. No.
I'm sorry. Even the storytelling.
Well, it's kind of the dragnet of the era. I mean, it's a period of time.
I guess.
Well, no, because it's a time capsule. It's a time capsule of time that never really existed in Miami. If you like the story, everything about it never really happened. Well, if you like Dragnet.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one of the things that, as I just mentioned about listening to old time radio, I know that oftentimes I've sat here and said it would be cool to try to do a modern radio show with a good classic storyline, and have fun with it. And occasionally companies and people have done that. There have been some more. CBS Mystery Theater was one that was in the 80s and 90s. They've had a number of try to comebacks to radio, because you have the ability to use your imagination when telling the story, just like reading a novel, versus the actual visual that interferes with the storyline.
So you know what has brought that back more than anything else is podcasting.
Yeah.
Now, I've been listening to podcasting before RSS, pretty much before anybody that I know. And now that podcasting is really ubiquitous, a lot of murder mysteries, a lot of storytelling, there's a ton of them out there that are actually really good quality stories, like the Leviathan Chronicles. Marvel's done stuff with Wolverine. And some of it's not my thing, but it's brought back the theater of your mind, which I totally dig. I'm always looking for like an audiobook experience that I want more, that like I can't wait for the next week's episode.
I'll have to look those up.
I love it. That's a thing. That's a thing.
and the coolest thing about them too is I've listened to some that were rather like, you would never get half this stuff on any public air because it's either too risque, it's too violent, or too like, you know, like, wow, that's way out of left field. But it's really cool, like kind of what people have done. Let's see if I deleted a bunch of podcasts off my phone. Let's see if I can actually figure out if I have any on here.
But while you're looking for that, I think that comes back to what I was talking about, is the fact that when you listen to something or you read a novel, it gives you, your mind is active in it, and you have your own visualization of what's taking place at a given scene or whatever it may be. And I think that keeps it fresh longer, shall we say.
Well, yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. It's
I said this to John a while back when the Lord of the Rings all came out.
I was going to bring that up.
And I was disappointed by the movies. And the reason why I was disappointed by the movies is because I read the books when I was 12. And to take the imagination of a 12-year-old and the descriptions in the books and using my imagination and mix with that to look at something that's on a big screen, it doesn't really compare.
Right.
So I was disappointed by the movies when I looked at it through that viewpoint. But when I step back and I'm like, if I actually look and see it through his, Peter Jackson's whole thing, it's not that bad. But in comparison to how I read the books and how I envisioned everything and how it put together, the books are so much better.
Well, that's always been the thing. We go to the movies and we see a movie that is taking place off of a book, whatever modern day novel it may be. And you go, okay, I read the book, let's go see the movie. And almost to every movie I've ever seen that's done in that way, I've always said the book is better.
Yeah.
And maybe it's the detail in the book. It's a book can take, it can take you weeks to read the book, where you got to get this movie in a 2-hour, 3-hour time frame and try to get the whole story jammed in there.
I think part of it is also, especially with fantasy, is the medium you're transposing it onto, live action versus animation. The problem I've noticed with live action is if something happens, you have to have an explanation within reality to explain why it's happening. So if you have magic, okay, why does magic exist? Why is this doing something? Versus animation lends itself to suspending suspending belief because, it's a cartoon, so anything can happen in that realm of things. And
I just thought of something. Sorry to interrupt you. I understand where you're going with animation, but I just thought about another genre that doesn't bode up well through time. It's sci-fi. Sci-fi ages so quickly, even in books, even in early television shows. If you look at them, they age very, very quickly.
I think it depends a little bit. Like Dune, the book. I think besides the fact it's like reading an A+ certification manual, I think it ages pretty good.
Well, I don't know, man. Look at
the
original.
I think the more we have an understanding of science, the more we're going to get movies like The Martian, which are very rooted in the truth of what's going on.
That movie is going to age as well as Milk.
Well, yeah, you're right. But
were you kidding me?
I talk about sci-fi that starts in the 50s and 60s.
Flash Gordon.
It doesn't hold up now. Virtually none of it really does.
As I would say, is the guy, and we're over time, but is the guy who's the resident like 1950s horror sci-fi fan. For me, it's the kind of the goofiness of it. It's the simple storytelling. It's the throwback of, nuclear radiation instead of killing things can make giant radioactive ants. But I think there's a difference.
Then you should be a fan of Outer Limits.
I think the difference between that and say like Flash Gordon, like Flash Gordon 50s. I think it just depends on the medium and the story, because the Flash Gordon stuff ages like milk versus I think some of the sci-fi the giant creature features I think age okay. But yeah,
I don't know.
I think fantasy ages the worst actually, especially live action fantasy. Like Cole does not age well. I love it, but it does not age well.
Yeah.
That's why I'm interested to see how, like 10 years from now, how Lord of the Ring ages to other people. Because I'll always love it, but that's within my, like, what will my son think about it? It's like, oh, Dad, this is shit.
Yeah. What were you thinking, Dad?
So I'm curious. It's like 80s anime. You have to be into it to like it.
Well, I mean, there is the whole CGI scene of, what was it, The Hobbit? Where it's like the most terrible little scene in any of those films.
Oh, there's the bridge scene that was the Technicolor rainbow, and there was the GoPro waterfall scene.
Yes, the GoPro waterfall scene. Oh my God.
That was the one scene in the.
Oh my God, that was terrible.
That took me. The GoPro water scene was the only scene in the entire movie, in that entire series, that actually almost made me get up and watch it, because it was in beautiful 4K or whatever in the theaters, and all of a sudden you had this like GoPro. It's like, really, motherfucker, could have skipped that. I get it. They're going underwater.
Now then you blame the editor.
I like
edited it out.
I blame the director.
Yeah, I mean, I like Peter Jackson. I mean, he's pretty flawless in a lot of the goofy shit he's made, in my opinion. But there's just bits and pieces. It's like Guillermo del Toro. No director is perfect. There's always things that, little bits and pieces, or in James's case, an entire movie that you just don't dig.
Well, they start reading their own press releases, and that's.
Wait, who the hell are you talking about?
You don't like Pacific Rim.
Who the hell are you talking about?
Guillermo del Toro.
What the hell did you call him, though? Oh, that's closer. That's closer to his name.
Hey,
I don't know what the heck he said the first time.
well, it's because you didn't hear half of it. That's not my fault.
No.
It's the COVID lapse.
Oh, no, I heard it just
lapse.
perfectly fine. You have the delay.
I don't know. I'm really curious to see what movies age well.
Oh, my.
I'm getting the go home cue from the old guys. The
Wrap
question
it
is,
up. Time
Yeah,
is up.
Pacific Rim stocked.
so the question is, how long do you guys want to keep going? So anybody have anything else to say? We already know what the old guy says.
We've already lost our audience. Go ahead.
Say
and
shut
end
the
it.
hell up and end the show.
Say goodnight.
You know, this show's not brought to you by Burma Shave. Golfers, if fewer strokes are what you crave,
Oh, you
you'll
can't
be
even
out of the
read it
rough with
right.
Burma Shave.
Yeah. At least play my drop, will you?
Well, now I got to go find it. So, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we're out of time
That's it.
for the California Pariah for
We need
James
the closing
Stevens.
music. Where's it?
As always, thank you for listening.